Before I start, I wish to acknowledge the custodians of this land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their elders past, present, and future. I wish to acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the life of the city and this region. This brand new podcast, Moonlight Conversations, explores topics you and I want to talk about: life, love, hopes and dreams, and everything in between. It tackles the discussions we have with ourselves and other people about our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Most of all, it delves into why conversations are highly essential for physical, emotional, and mental well-being, and how our souls and spirits need them to thrive and not just survive. We all deserve to be healthy and happy, to shine and to sparkle. So join me in this journey. Start a conversation with me now. It can inspire people and change lives. Tonight, I interview Joyce Lee of Joyce Lee Healing. She is a women's trauma and self-healing coach. She will be telling us how she suffered from social anxiety and a relationship breakdown, and how these started her passion for healing. We also discuss how to change the way we have been programmed or socially conditioned when we were young, like the good girl syndrome. We tackle how we pass on to our kids whatever trauma we experienced in our childhood, and how we can use meditation and other forms of therapy to heal from this. Lastly, she tells us why we need to accept ourselves now rather than wait for when things get better. So strap in, have a listen, and without further ado, I give you Joyce Lee. Welcome, Joyce. Joyce, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview again. And so I would just like to know more about how you started Joyce Lee Healing. I understand you've got certain issues from your childhood before
Yeah,
that you wanted to heal from, or trauma
yeah,
that you wanted to heal from. Tell us more about that.
yeah. Yeah, I think this is probably a story that a lot of people in this line of work, like the healing or coaching work, I think a lot of us have been through our own journey that inspired us to start our own business in this area.
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess the reason I started this healing business has definitely to do with my own transformation journey. So since I was little, I've struggled with social anxiety, and I I was raised in Malaysia as well. Being
Mm-hmm.
Asian, I had a lot of sort of like good girl conditioning.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
I can understand that. I
yeah,
can relate to that very well.
yeah. So I was raised to be quiet, to be obedient, to be compliant. And so, by, all the adult standards, they would always consider me a good girl. But I guess that kind of sent me the message that I was fine, being this way was totally fine. And
Yes.
then when I stepped into adulthood, when I went to uni, so I moved to Australia for university, that was when I had this shocking realization that I had no social skills. that I didn't know how to be assertive. I didn't know how to be opinionated and all that stuff. And that
Yes.
was when my social anxiety really escalated. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So, but that being said, I kind of just learned to live with it for the longest time. I just accepted that I was introverted. I accepted that I just didn't have much to say and I was a bit
Yes.
scared of people. And then I built my career with that understanding of myself as well. So I kind of like live within the limitations of that belief I had about myself. And
Okay.
so how I ended up on the healing journey was I had a relationship breakdown, which led me on a self-discovery path. And that was when I started to do a lot of meditation. And I realized through meditation, I could actually control or rather master my thoughts and my emotions. And I can actually decide how I want to see something and sort of reprogram my mind to take on a new story rather than the default story that my mind would want to tell myself. And that got me interested in subconscious reprogramming, the
Oh,
reprogramming of my subconscious mind. And then that got me on a journey of seeking different forms of therapy. And eventually, I found the modality that I'm currently practicing, which is called root cause therapy. It's a form of regression therapy that
oh,
basically goes back into your memory, the root cause memory of specific limiting beliefs,
I see.
and helps you release the emotions relating to those limiting beliefs, and then sort of gives you an opportunity to rewrite the story or the narrative that you want to remember that event
Okay.
by. Yeah.
All
So that
right.
was
That's
actually how I ended up being able to clear my social anxiety trauma. Sorry, that was like
yeah.
such a roundabout story. But yeah.
Well, that's very interesting because you know what? Not only did I go through depression as well, but I did have social anxiety. So when I first came here to Australia, I didn't have any friends. Like it was just my partner that I knew here. And it was so hard for me to like go out there and find people that I can relate
Yeah.
to. And like you said, I was trained to be like a good girl, like a
Yes.
quiet good girl, and I didn't know how to be assertive and speak out my thoughts and all that. How do
So
you do it?
okay, so let me start with the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is basically where our programming
Mm-hmm.
um, lives. That's where our memories, our belief systems, basically a lot of things that we're not consciously aware of that's actually influencing our thought patterns, our emotions, and our behaviors.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're the programming for our minds essentially.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and a lot of um, yeah, and a lot of like our fears or the way we behave, a lot of that's influenced by these programmings that we learned during childhood.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and so when it comes to regression therapy basically is it brings you back into the past. It to the past, and it finds the root cause memory that created a specific belief that you have today. So, say for example, with social anxiety, a common fear would be fear of judgment. So we would find the root cause incident or event in the past that created this fear of judgment.
Okay. So, for
Yeah,
example, let's say I was about like in grade four or like 10 years old or something, and I was entered into this competition where I had to sing out a song,
yeah,
and that made me really anxious just going in front of the people and singing there and performing,
yeah,
and made me really conscious about how I'm going to do or
yeah,
perform.
yeah,
So, is that sort of what
yeah.
regression is? Just going back to the
It is,
specific.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we try to go to the very first event that created that fear.
Yeah.
Because what tends to happen is with the first event that created the fear, that was the first time our mind sort of started to have this program of, oh, people are scary, people are judging me. So
Yes.
the first time you have that belief in your mind, then subsequently you would you would keep looking for sort of evidence to reinforce this belief. Does that
Ah,
make sense? So every other experience following it where you were being judged, where you get this hint that people were nasty to you
okay.
for, that would actually reinforce that belief over and over and over. And that's one of the reasons why we try to find the very first one. And
I see.
yeah, and the other thing is, you don't have to consciously remember what it is to do this therapy. Um, because essentially with regression therapy, it's like we're entering your memory database.
Okay.
So even though perhaps consciously, like me having a conversation with you, asking you, oh, when do you think you got your, when do you think you started having this fear of judgment? You might not be able to tell me
Yeah,
consciously.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but with this therapy, if when you're able to surrender to the process and trust the process, you'd be able to go way further back to memories that you are not even consciously aware of.
What you're trying to say, I guess, is you can do this subconsciously. Is that sort of like hypnotism as well?
It is a well, I it is similar, I would say. It's in
Similar.
a yeah, you'll be in a deep meditative state. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, I see. So you get more like memories come back with
Yes,
subconscious.
yes,
Oh, I
yes,
see.
yes.
All right. I just wanted to find out how is this what was one of the most difficult like subconscious healing that you went through with a client or regression therapy with a client? What can you just share with us what was one of them?
Mm, I think it's different for everyone.
Yes.
So because this is quite a foreign process to most people, because
Mm.
like, in this day and age, we're a lot of us are very much in our heads. And so
Yes.
it's we try to intellectualize everything, in which case sometimes even the idea of surrendering to the process can be difficult for some people, like especially if that person is like super rational and they need to make sense of everything. And they would not they would struggle sometimes to trust their subconscious mind. Um, so yeah, I guess difficulty, it's different for everybody. So that's one kind of difficulty. Another one is so as part of this healing process, we also walk our clients through a emotional release process. So
Mm.
basically, they have to go into that event and they have to feel the emotions that they felt as when they were a child when it happened. Reason being, trauma gets stuck in our body because the emotions are trapped in our body. It hasn't been processed essentially.
Ah.
So we want to go back to that memory and process the emotions. So this processing the emotions can actually also pose difficulty for certain people because again a lot of us are in our heads and a lot of us are quite disconnected from our emotions. Like what does it
Mm.
even mean to feel our emotions?
To be
um
in that situation again, back in that same situation
mhm.
where you initially got the trauma and just feel it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like there is the fear sometimes of re-experiencing the trauma. And
Mm.
then there is also that fear of feeling emotions. Um, yeah, because um, like I find that in this modern day and age, a lot of us have been conditioned to judge our emotions.
Yeah.
For example, like we, as women especially, I think a lot of us are programmed to not feel anger. Like anger is considered like a
Mm.
masculine
A
emotion or
masculine
like
emotion.
a
Yeah.
nast yeah, it's not a good emotion. So
That's
whenever
right.
we do feel anger, a lot of us are conditioned to just suppress it. to like be in denial and say like, no, I'm not angry, you know, I cannot feel angry, it's not very feminine of me to feel angry, or whatever, you know, whatever story we're telling ourselves. But those are the kinds of things that actually stop us from processing our emotions. So as part of this process is also to really sort of let go of those conditioning and just, you know, come back to um our natural self, you know, just us and our emotions, the emotions that we were created to feel, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is women are, or men in that sense, are allowed to feel any kind of emotion they want to feel, not limited to feeling certain
Yes.
emotions. Yeah, because most, like, or some emotions are connected to men or related to
Yes.
men or related to women. That's very good because we're just human, aren't we?
Yeah. Us humans feeling our emotions, that's completely natural. Our emotions are there to be felt, but it is really just like our social conditioning that have taught us different things about our emotions.
And do you think a lot of, like, social conditioning, you mentioned earlier that the way we grew up or the way we were programmed, um do you think that that's got a lot to do with our parents as well?
Yes, for sure.
Like family of origins kind of
Yes,
thing?
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So when it comes to subconscious mind programming, um, majority of our programming happened between the age of 0 to 7, because
Okay.
that's when we're most susceptible to our environment. That's when we are still sort of making sense of who we are and how we should relate to the world and the people around us. So we
I see.
learn from our very first experiences with our family members, our parents, our siblings, and all that on, you know, um, and we basically try to make sense of or answer questions like, am I good enough as I am? You
Yes.
know, can I be myself, or do I have to be someone else to receive love? Yeah,
Oh,
so and that's how we start to make sense of
okay.
ourselves in relation to the world. A lot of people in their childhood didn't have parents who were very emotionally attuned to them, which is what actually then causes a lot of the trauma we have
Yeah.
today. So as a result, we basically take away beliefs like, you know, I have to be someone else to be accepted. I have to
Yeah.
get approval from my parents. Yeah, I'm not good enough as I am, and all that, which then creates, you know, other issues as we get
Yeah.
older.
Yeah. Recently saw on your post that, you know, hurt people hurt people. Um,
Yeah.
s- yeah. So tell us more about it.
Yeah. So, so earlier when you were asking me about like whether it came from our parents, I just want to re-emphasize this, that at like this whole message doesn't have anything to do with blaming our parents. If
Yes.
anything, we're really just bringing to awareness the fact that because our parents also had trauma from their parents, like
Yes.
the trauma we're experiencing has been passed down from generations. And in a way, nobody was aware of it until very much like now. And
Yeah.
so, like the way our parents have hurt us in the sense that, you know, they send us the message that we're not good enough, you know, maybe they punished us or scolded us when we did
Yes.
something wrong, which
Yeah.
then, you know, created our sense of self. um like that's what I mean by hurt people, because they themselves were hurt in the past. They
Yes.
probably received some like much worse treatment and punishment from their parents. You know, I'm pretty sure our parents wanted to do their best by us, and they probably
Yes.
also made improvements, you know, compared to their parents.
That's
um
right. But
yeah.
it's just unavoidable sometimes
Yes.
that they pass on those hurt,
Yes.
because they are hurt themselves.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how do we then, like, move forward or get to, turn that around
Yeah,
and change it? What is the best that we can do to turn it around?
that is a very, very good question. So, so in the context of parenting,
Mm-hmm.
they always say that the most important thing you can do really is to heal yourself, heal your own trauma. Because
Okay.
if you're not consciously aware of your trauma, you will somehow pass it on to your kids.
Yes.
But that being said, it's important to point out that I don't think it's possible for someone to have zero trauma at all. Like, I think no matter how much work you do, um, kids will somehow have trauma to a certain degree because you cannot control everything. Um,
Yes.
yeah, but if as a parent you do the work and you become consciously aware of how your trauma is showing up in your relationship with your kids, that you can at least do something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very, very enlightening. We can only show compassion or whatever it is that we have. We can't give
Yeah.
we can't give something that we don't have, can we?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we only have hurt in us, then that's probably what we're going to give out to our kids as
Yes,
well.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So we have to heal our traumas. So tell us about how they can get in touch with you, like bring that healing into their
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah. Yeah, so I am mostly on Instagram. My
Yes.
handle is joycelee.healing.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, you can just
Okay.
reach out to me on Instagram.
One last lesson about self love and healing yourself, trying to move away from the trauma. Last message to our listeners.
I would say, at the very least, try to practice self acceptance. I think there is a misconception out there that um, a lot of us think that we need to achieve a certain goal or, become someone before we can accept ourselves.
Okay.
But that is not true. If you don't accept yourself today as you are now, you are not going to magically accept yourself in future. And even if you achieve your goal, the thing is that is conditional acceptance, which is
Oh,
not which is not really full acceptance of who you are. So I
okay.
would say that self acceptance is actually a practice that you can start today. As you are now, you don't have to be someone else or achieve anything to start accepting yourself. And self acceptance is really important in your relationship with yourself in terms of loving yourself and learning to be your own best advocate. Self acceptance is the start.
The start. Okay, that's very
Yeah.
good. Thank you so much for that, Joyce.
Sure.
Because without self acceptance, and if you don't do it now, when will you ever?
Yeah, when will
You
you?
know,
Exactly.
there's no right time to accept yourself, is there?
Mhm.
You just have to do it right now,
Yes.
right here. Don't wait for when you become successful because it's always going to be a process, isn't it?
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
goalpost is always going to move.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Joyce, for
You're
those words of
welcome.
wisdom. And thank you so much for guesting with us again. And we wish you all the best in Joyce Lee Healing.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much. So that is it for tonight, folks. Thank you so much for listening in, joining us, and spending time with us tonight. And we thank Joyce Lee again for guesting on our show and for giving us all those useful and helpful information regarding healing. And you can get in touch with her. The details will be on the episode page. Also, please check out my website on www.conversationsIneverhadwithluna.com. And you can also click on the Amazon link to buy my book. Thank you so much again, everyone. And we hope to spend time again with you next week. Same time every Friday, 8 p.m. Perth time. Thank you so much. We hope you have a good night. Again, this is Anna, Moonlight Conversations, signing out.